be a miracle if I didn't have even one to read.
Who knows? That's usually.
Morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this morning's April 6th regular meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. We're going to start the meeting with an invocation by Pastor Mike Bell, and if you would remain standing, Supervisor Borelli will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Good morning. Let us pray. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Almighty God, praise, glory, and honor belong to you, for you are our Creator and Savior. And it is for your name's sake that we call upon you today. Magnify your name in the workings of this county. We ask that you give your hand of blessing upon this board, this meeting, and upon the whole of Mojave County. Protect all that work here and its inhabitants, and may this place be one of blessing and prosperity. Bless us now, Almighty God, in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please face the flag of a country that has brought more prosperity to the world than mankind has ever known. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah. Carry on.
Board of Supervisors may, by motion, recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A3, 4, and 7. Looking for a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held on April 20th, 2026 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Thank you. Official business to come before the board. Item number 1, discussion of pending or contemplated litigation, claims, and demands. Attorney Davis, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. We'll move into item number 2, committee and or legislative reports. We'll start with Supervisor Martin this morning.
Good morning. During the past 2 weeks, I've attended public meetings in Dolan Springs and in Meadview. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Last week I was in Phoenix, met with some legislators in the House and the Senate, and of course, all the committees are done. The only committees that are going on right now is the Appropriations Committee. So we'll just stand by on what's going to happen with the still no tax conformity bill has been signed by the governor's office yet. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Lattman.
Thank you. Last week, I chaired a meeting of the Employee Benefit Trust to wrap up a couple of loose items, getting us ready for the 27 budget, and we're set to go.
Thank you, sir. I only have 2 brief updates this morning. The first is on the Wildfire Valley INA, the irrigation on expansion area. Some of you may have read that it's undergoing a continued legal action. The Arizona Department of Water Resources filed something called a motion for reconsideration. The judge down in Maricopa County denied that motion for reconsideration, so we're working closely with ADWR. They're going to be appealing that order for the INA, I think next week. We're going to be, as far as Mojave County, we're going to be bringing amicus brief to the board to approve and submit that as a part of that appeal process for the INA. It was not, the INA was basically, this judge basically said he didn't believe that the process that ADWR used in 2022 satisfied the Administrative Procedures Act, even though the whole process for designating a subsequent INA or AMA is in the statute, and it has been since 1980. But anyways, we're going to be appealing that, and the EWR has also filed a motion for a stay. We'll keep everybody posted as that legal process continues. The second update is Mojave County has been fighting the Baj National Monument up north. About half of it is in Mojave County up north. The state legislature, they sued, and then they went to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals just denied that. But we're still hopeful that the Biden's monument will get shrunk or overturned by the Trump administration. Those of you that will remember when President Trump first got into office, one of the first things he did was an energy emergency, and then he also directed Department of Interior to review, I think, the first 6 national monuments. The Baj Monument was one of those for possible boundary changes, and that process continues. And so we're hopeful that this administration will take action as they did the last time he was in office, and that's all I have. We have 3 proclamations this morning. First proclamation is approve the proclamation declaring the week of April 6th, 2026 as Public Health Week in Mojave County. I would read that into the record if anybody is, if I have it. I don't think I have it. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Thank you. Whereas the week of April 6, 2026 is Public Health Week, and the theme is Ready, Set, Action, recognizing how public health has improved daily life and safeguarded families in our communities while we honor the public health workers that show up every day to advocate and promote good health for all Mojave County residents. Whereas this year is the 31st anniversary of celebrating Public Health Week, and during the past 150 years, significant strides have been made in public health, including the following public health successes. 1, deaths due to HIV/AIDS, which peaked in 1994 at 49,095. Age-related deaths that year in the U.S. have dropped significantly. 2, smoking rates which were high as 25.5% among U.S. adults in 1994 have now fallen to 11.4% due to comprehensive smoke-free policies, public awareness campaigns, and taxation of tobacco products. 3, childhood mortality, which was at a rate of 13.8 deaths per 1,000 live births in 1994, has now fallen to 5.4 deaths per 1,000 live births due to vaccines, better health care access, and nutrition. 4, mental health awareness and treatment, with 40% of people with mental health conditions being untreated in 1994, has progressed with increased awareness, parity laws, and integration into primary care, which have expedited access to mental health services and reduced treatment gaps. Whereas a person's health status can differ drastically by zip code due to differences in the built environment, environmental quality, community context, access to healthy food, access to education, and access to health care. Whereas public health organizations use Public Health Week to educate public health professionals and the public on issues that are important to improve the health of the people of the United States. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mojave County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim the week of April 6, 2026 as Public Health Week in Mojave County, Arizona. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to stop. We just skipped over our county manager's report. Manager Strahl, excuse me.
Well, being new, I can understand. That's okay. I just wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity. It's been a whirlwind couple of weeks, a lot to learn, still gathering lots of information, and we'll continue to gather more information and be able to be of more value as time goes on. So I appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
And I promise everybody he didn't pay me to cut my break this time, so that was my mistake. Second proclamation is for the courts. Approve the proclamation declaring the week of April 12th, 2026 as the week of the young child. I've been requested to read this into the record, and then Clerk of the Court, Kip Anderson, would like to have a photo with the Board of Supervisors. Whereas all of Arizona's children deserve access to quality early care and education environments, and whereas quality child care programs build children's lifelong learning skills during the critical years from birth to age 5, whereas ECE, early care and education teachers and childhood providers are the essential workforce that helps Arizona parents get to work or school. Whereas funding quality childcare is a smart investment that improves family well-being, strengthens communities, and grows our state's prosperity. Whereas first things first, Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, Southern Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, and other community organizations in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children are celebrating the 55th anniversary of the Week of the Young Child. And whereas these organizations are working to improve equitable early childhood opportunities that provide a strong start for children in Mojave County, whereas public policies that support ECE for Arizona's youngest learners help our families, communities, and the economy thrive. Now, therefore, we, the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim April 11th to the 17th, 2026 as the Week of the Young Child in Mojave County, Arizona, and encourage all citizens to support and invest in early care and education in our community. Mr. Anderson, do you have a few words?
Good morning, Board. Chairman Lingenfeller, thank you for reading that in. Actually isn't the courts requesting it, but I am on the council, and so is Melissa Palmer. We're on the council, and first things first is Arizona's early childhood agency. They promote well-being for children aged 0 to 5. We appreciate the support of the board. The agency does a lot of good work working with the communities and agencies in our county. This is actually La Paz Mojave County Council that we're on, so thank you. We appreciate that. And I don't know if we were going to maybe do a photo. Melissa looks really good in photos. I don't, but if we can do that, Chairman.
Yeah, we can do a photo really quick.
All right, thank you.
Can we do a vote first?
Okay.
I apologize.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it. So ordered. Thank you. Third proclamation is approval of the proclamation declaring April 10th, 2026 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. I'll read this into the record. It's the shortest one of the three. Whereas in November 1990, the Arizona Constitution was amended to include rights for victims of crimes, and whereas the Mojave County Attorney's Office established the Victim Witness Program in 1990 to advise crime victims of their rights, provide guidance through the judicial process, and provide information regarding available resources from the time a crime is reported to law enforcement to adjudication of the case. Whereas providing crime victims with their rights, available services, and resources promotes their ability to recover and restore a sense of hope and self-empowerment, whereas the Mojave County Attorney's Office Victim Witness Program listens, acts, advocates, protects victims, and serves our community. Whereas National Crime Victims Week provides an opportunity for all of Mojave County to unite for victims' rights and commit to listening to the voices of crime victims. Now, therefore, we, the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim April 19, 2026 to April 25, 2026 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And along with the Mojave County Attorney Victim Witness Program, are dedicated to strengthening crime victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our community, and upholding the belief that all people should be able to live safely and free from fear, violence, and intimidation. I'd open up a motion.
Move to approve Proclamation 3 as read.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. You pass that to the clerk. That brings us to our consent agenda, items 4 through 55. Supervisor Lettman, would you like to remove any items from consent this morning?
I would. Item 53.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 12.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Borelli.
Nothing.
Supervisor Martin.
Nothing today.
And I will not pull anything today. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, minus items 12 and 53.
So moved.
That
Second.
motion, do I have a second? All in
Second.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 12, approve the adoption of resolution number 2026-066, approving the designation of all 37 Mojave County poll sites for the July 21st, 2026 primary election, and all 38 Mojave County poll sites for the November 3rd, 2026 election. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not in opposition to this. I just thought that if we pulled it off the agenda for discussion, it would highlight it to the public.
Thank you, sir. Morning, Karina.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good.
So I will highlight one thing on there that I just want to make note of for the people is one of our poll sites in the Lake Havasu area is Fire Station number 2. And Fire Station number 2 was a new one that we added in 2024. And we will be using it again this year, but the original primary election date was in August, and the legislature changed it now to July 21st. So we send out our consent forms to the poll sites asking their permission to use their facility as a poll site for the elections. And for the Fire Station number 2, when we told them the primary election date had changed, they already had prior commitments with a training class that they were holding on July 21st. So they did say that they could not use us for the primary election, but we will be using them for the general election still. So you will see on there that I did put general election only next to Fire Station number 2. But that's my biggest highlight that I want to add for everybody is that please do not show up there on July 21st. Otherwise, you will not be able to vote. So that's my biggest one. Other than that, nothing else has changed since 2024. So if you have not moved or anything since 2024 and you were able to vote at your poll site last in 2024, then you will be able to vote at the same place in 2026.
Supervisor Burley, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Where is that? Where exactly? What's the address or location of fire?
2065 Kiowa Boulevard North in Lake Havasu. It's in 219.
Okay, it's in District 5's.
District 5.
Thank you. Thank you.
Open it up for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion, second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, Karina.
Thank you.
We'll move to item number 53. Approve the memorandum of understanding and authorize the county recorder to execute it on behalf of the Mojave County Recorder's Office between Hop Docs LLC and Mojave County Recorder's Office. Supervisor Lettman, thank you.
So I had some questions for Recorder Henry. Who's Hop Docs, and what's the procedure behind electronic recording? I thought we already had one primary vendor to do this. Who's this vendor?
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisor Lettman. HopDocs is a newer vendor, so we currently have 5 trusted vendors and submitters. We have Simplifile, CSC, IND, EPN, and Data Services. We already have those 5, and we have had those 5 since about 2009 when we went to e-recording. E-recording is anyone that's recording and submitting electronically, but that's still meeting state statute, submitting to our requirements within Tyler Technologies. HopDocs came to me in early of 2025. They hadn't yet been with any other counties in Arizona. They weren't on the Tyler Technologies list to be a submitted vendor. So then now they have been approved. When I asked them about themselves, most of them came from Simplifile. Simplifile is one of the largest vendors. They had then created their own. So when you go to a title company, most title companies are who submits electronically to us. Costs time and savings there. The customer pays the vendor, for instance, like $8 per document to submit to us, and then they're still paying the $30 recording fee.
Okay, so these vendors aren't responsible for the actual storage and the security of those stored items. We do that ourselves, correct?
Correct.
Okay, this sounds good. I'll move for approval of item 53.
For that motion, second, additional discussion. Recorder, Henry, excuse me. Did IT look over the agreement? It doesn't. I'm just really sort of sensitive on all these IT agreements that we sign in all the departments. I want to make sure that we're not bound to like ridiculous 10-year terms and things like that.
So this agreement is what we have had since 2009 about. It has changed a little bit over the years, but it's really on how they're submitting the documents to us, meeting state statute, 300 by 300 for DPI, black and white, we don't accept any images, things like that. I can send it to Director McDaniel if you'd like. Typically, it's reviewed every year between the submitter and I, and if we have any issues with the submitter, we contact them directly.
So is this a new agreement with a new vendor?
This is the same agreement with every other vendor, but with a new submitter.
Okay. I got a question for Tara. Tara, you want to come to the podium? You've been involved from a procurement lens on some of the other softwares like Accenture or whatever that one was called.
Correct, Chairman. This is not actually a software agreement. This is a memorandum of understanding of how these types of vendors actually engage and make sure that they serve their customers. So it's not a contract with Mojave County. It's an agreement where Recorder Henry, where Recorder Henry has actually said in order to submit through our platform, you are agreeing to do all of these things.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Director. And thank you, Recorder Henry. Appreciate it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, Board. We have 3 public hearings this morning. We'll open up the first public hearing, item number 56. Discussion, possible action, approve the adoption of BOS Resolution 2026-064, a special use permit for assessor's parcel number 313-86-012 to allow for an unmanned aircraft operations on 2 small airstrips for maintaining equipment for an off-site agricultural operation in an AR 36A agriculture residential 36-acre minimum lot size zone in the Antares Road vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. We have a few people that have signed up to speak. First being Jill Martin. If you want to come to the podium, state your name and address for the record and for our clerk. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Jill Martin, 8177 East Pauline Drive in Kingman. My family and I had moved to this area in September of 2025, and we chose the area that is just down the street from this parcel, specifically to raise our children and tend to livestock and eventually retire. We want to be clear that in the time we have lived there, that this property has remained very peaceful, and we drive by daily, and there is nothing that visually interferes with the landscape. Why there is a small private airstrip, you wouldn't even know it was there unless you were told. It simply just looks like cleared land. The lights on the property are standard, not intrusive. There is no excessive traffic, and we have experienced 0 noise issues. We had approached Mr. Van Voris with questions, and he's been very transparent. He is a retired LA County deputy sheriff. He has given a sense of security since the day we've moved in. He and his wife have been incredibly kind and have even invited my husband and son to go over and experience this, airfield and do some flying. We believe this project is a community asset, and it provides an opportunity for locals to enjoy a unique activity together, fostering the kind of unity and relationship building that makes a neighborhood strong. Mr. Van Voris is not looking for a backyard hobby loophole. He is professional. He, with our research and the questions we've asked him, he holds an FAA approval, and his site has an FAA airport designation code, and he is an FAA licensed pilot. He is seeking this permit specifically to ensure that he is in full legal compliance with Mojave County. We'd also like to address, we had read a letter that had been opposing at the last hearing, and we'd like to address those complaints before this board, because it is our understanding that much of the opposition stems from a personal vendetta. Upon purchasing our home, it was disclosed to us by the previous owner that the sheriff had been called to this area previously regarding cut fences and cattle rustling. Because Mr. Van Voris was involved in reporting these issues to law enforcement, there is a clear motive for certain parties to try and block his permit. Furthermore, also we want to correct the record regarding the missing public notice signs that had to be replaced. He did not remove them. My son and I personally observed the road grader tire marks where the signs were knocked down during a recent storm that had happened just before. And for some reason, the grader had went up higher on the curb. And you can see even still now where the tire marks went through where the signs were. The sign on the other part of the property, which is closer to us, the wind had knocked that down, and you could see that it was wet, crinkled up and thrown. So he did not remove. He wasn't trying to be deceiving in any manner. Anyways, we support this permit because it's low impact, professionally managed, and thank you.
Thank you. Dirk, Favoris.
Good morning. Dirk Van Voris, Antares, Arizona. I'm just here to answer any questions if you gentlemen have.
Great. After we close the public hearing, if we have any questions, we'll bring you back up. Thank you, sir.
Right,
Appreciate
it.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing on item number 56? Going once? I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 56. Question for the applicant. Mr. Van Voris, would you come back to the podium, please? Supervisor Borelli.
Good morning, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, sir. What is the maximum ceiling that that you can fly?
The FAA caps us at 400 feet above ground level.
Thank you.
Supervisor Lettman, thank you.
I had a question. What kind of aircraft are going to be taking off and landing at this airport?
They're all vertical takeoff and landing aircraft.
Okay, but they're unmanned.
They're all unmanned, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
So from going over the background, sir, it appears that you're already operating a commercial business on a residential piece of property.
Correct, sir.
Right. So you're doing this to, for what reason what brought this forward now? That you're now asking the Board of Supervisors for permission to operate the business on your residential property?
We moved our family and our business from Mesa, Arizona. And this is just kind of where we're at right now because we had to go through the FAA originally to do this lengthy airspace study. And that was the first procedure. Didn't make any sense to waste your time with this first if the FAA was going to say no to this since we are close to an airport.
But you said that you were already operating this business from a residential piece of property?
Yes, sir.
Generally, what we see is people that are not in compliance, someone files a complaint, and then they decide to bring themselves into compliance. Is that the situation here?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm unaware of any complaints that have been brought against me. Are you folks aware of any complaint?
No, only reading the background information.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or discussion? Supervisor Borelli, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, you're only going to fly these things within the confines of the property, correct?
Yes, sir. It's just for maintenance. That's the whole reason. You just need some areas to make sure that everything's flying. Most of all the work is done off-site. It's either agriculture or it's for firefighting.
So this is just R&D and maintenance. Good. Thank you.
Sir.
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, sir, your aircraft is not going to leave the confines of your property?
No, sir.
So they're going to stay on the property?
Yes, sir. There's no reason for it to, because we have that 36, plus we have an adjoining 40 that is south of that. So that's more than enough area.
I've seen applications like this in the past where people talk about leasing these unmanned airstrips to other people that you've got roads in the area for chase trucks and things like that. Is that the kind of operation that you're going to be running?
Absolutely not.
So
Using chase trucks and all that for unmanned aircraft, there are some pretty strict laws against that.
Okay. I've seen ads that say that that's what they're doing. I wouldn't doubt, it wouldn't surprise me that they're operating outside of the rules.
There's a lot of people that do operate outside of the rules. We went through I've gone through extensive training, but we've gone through extensive processes with the FAA to get this unmanned airstrip. And that was very lengthy, and I make sure that I comply, and I make sure that I stay in compliance, because I'm also an airframe and power plant mechanic. So my federal book is about that thick.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question for Director Holtree.
Director Holtree, could you come to, we'll bring it back up if we have more questions, Mr. Wildfire. Thank you. Thank you, Director Holtree. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Director Holtree, does his application for his special use permit state that he will not be operating the drones outside of his own property?
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Gould, I don't believe we have that on our application. That's not something that he would list on there, or that we would regulate, that he could only operate on his property. That's not something that would be on there.
Seems like it would be something that we could regulate.
We could. It's not something
because I think the biggest problem people have with drones is they don't like people flying drones over their property.
It's definitely something that we could put as a condition. It's not something that's currently on the application, no.
Okay. Can we regulate that if we add that at the dais?
Yes, I believe we could. It would be probably a little bit difficult, but if we get a report that he's operating off-site, we would have our inspectors go out and check and verify, and if we do gather evidence that he is, then we could pursue that.
And then we do have the ability to cancel the special use permit.
Correct.
For violations of the terms of the special use permit.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Attorney Davis, I've got a question when it comes to, obviously, Mojave County, we are the regulatory authority for zoning and all these types of things. Is the FAA, we have to interact with the FAA on the airspace stuff? How does that work?
Mr. Chairman, no, the FAA maintains, I'll say, control over the airspace. We would just be controlling everything on the ground. So they would, if there was any airspace violations or anything of that nature or restrictions to airspace, that would be handled by the FAA. That wouldn't be included in anything the county would do. This really just, what this does is allow him to launch it from the ground that he's launching it on.
And if any of the public has any problems with his operation in the future, flying over their homes, they would, there's a mechanism for them to report to the FAA to complain about that?
They would be able to report it to the FAA, and they could also, as Director Holder just said, they could report it to us. The violation wouldn't be an airspace violation on our end. It would be launching from your property or not your property and conducting something outside of your special use permit.
Appreciate it. Mr. Alvarez, I've got one last question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you. So, Attorney Davis, could we enforce that if he was flying over other people's property?
If he was flying over other people's property, the special use permit would be a difficult one. The special use permit covers what happens on the ground. There are other rules that we could look at outside of the special use permit, including through the FAA. But people also retain their airspace above their property to a certain altitude, depending on how high.
You know what that altitude is?
It's not super low, but it's also not very high either. For example, you can't stop an aircraft from flying over you at a certain altitude, but if someone's routinely buzzing you, that's a different story.
But the enforcer is the federals.
Yes, they could go after his license. They could go after, because these sorts of drones, my understanding is their size requires a drone pilot certification. They could go after that certification. They could go after other things as well. There's different avenues of enforcement depending on where the violation occurs.
So if we were to allow this use on a residential piece of property, effectively we'd have no enforcement as long as he took off from his own property.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Burley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, obviously, the special use permit, it's implied that it's in the confines of his private property. And naturally, the maximum ceiling that they can have, according to the FAA, is 400 feet. So they got up to 400 feet. That's it, maximum. As far as flying over another piece of private property, yeah, I remember this in the legislature. If you're flying in somebody's backyard, obviously you're harassing and this and that, and that can have other aspects of disorderly conduct, violation of privacy, so on and so forth, because anything outside your home is really not that private. But flying over somebody's yard, just like somebody putting up a big giant ladder and looking into your backyard, that gets kind of squishy. But the intent of this is to stay within the confines of his property. That's how I read the intent of this special use permit, especially if she's doing maintenance and R&D. So.
Supervisor Martin, then I'll get to you.
Okay. Director Holtree, just for the record, has your agency, your department received any complaints about this?
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Martin, yes, we received one letter of opposition.
That was it?
That was on the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
My point here is this is a residential piece of property. If people want to do a commercial enterprise, buy the appropriate piece of property. People buy residential property in rural areas so that they can have the quiet enjoyment of their property. And people come into those areas to buy residential property and then attempt to get it rezoned for commercial use. And to me, it's essentially a bait and switch to the people that did their due diligence, that looked at the zoning of the property that's around them. If you want to do a commercial use, buy a commercial piece of property. No one will have any problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Burley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. But to that point, we also allow home-based businesses. If he's not doing a retail operation, it's strictly contractual, fixing somebody's and repairing. I think that's kind of different. But we allow for home-based businesses on residential property.
To that point.
Supervisor Gould.
Particular home-based businesses. I can't store construction equipment at my residential property in Mojave County currently. There's limitations on what business you can run out of a home. I don't think you could run piloted aircraft maintenance from a home. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Open it up for a motion or additional discussion.
Motion to approve.
Heard that motion, second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 57, we're going to open the public hearing on item number 57. Discussion, possible action, approve the adoption of BOS Resolution 2026-065, an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan from an SE Suburban Estates land use designation to a GC General Commercial Land Use designation, and request for a rezone of assessors parcel number 207-20-001 from a C2 General Commercial Zone to a C2H Highway Commercial Zone to allow for a feed store with associated outdoor sales in the Yucca vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. We have no one signed up to speak during public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on the public hearing on item number 57? Going once, going twice. I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 57. And open it up to
approve.
You've heard that motion. Do I have a second? Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, board. We're going to open the public hearing on item number 58. Discussion, possible action, approve the adoption of Mojave County Ordinance number 2026-04. A request to amend the Mojave County zoning ordinance, section 46.2, amendments to the general plan and area plans to amend the property size requirement that constitutes a major plan amendment to the Mojave County general plan. Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. We have a couple people that have signed up to speak during the public, or excuse me, one person that has signed up to speak, Angel Lund.
Good morning. Angel Lund, 4141.
Speak into the microphone. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Angel Lund, 4141 North Dragoon Road, Golden Valley, Arizona. Good morning. I just have a couple questions because it really didn't say what you're changing it to and any specifications. So like if you're changing it to 640 acres would be a major plan, then can someone take off like a road on one side and then they don't have to do the major plan? I'm just wondering what restrictions there are, and if part of the plan, does it have to be the whole plan or a little bit of the plan so they can get away with not having to do the full plan? Anyway, you see my problem.
After we close the public hearing, we'll bring up Director Holtree and we'll hopefully he'll answer those questions.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing on item number 58? State your name and address for the record. Thank you so much.
Jennifer Esposito, 3211 East Snavely, Kingman. I believe that this is just to bring everything into accordance, if I'm understanding this correctly, with the changes that the board wanted to reduce the size of what a major plan amendment is. And so, you know, in respect to that, I'm not in opposition. This seems to be a ministerial sort of a thing. And I would like to thank the board for actually reducing that size and encourage the board going forward to set some requirements for some of these large developments. You know, I think that if someone's going to ask for the plan to be amended to build thousands of houses, they should have to bring something more to the board instead of just give us the change now. Amend the plan now and we'll tell you what we're going to do with it later, because that's sort of the county policy that we have. And it's bad. They're not required to show what kind of septic tanks or system or anything to do with providing infrastructure or environmental impact studies or proof that there's enough water. So I'm all for reducing the size and fixing this and bringing this into alignment. And I think you have a lot of work to do still before everything's quite right. But I have faith you'll do the right thing. And if you don't, I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wishing to provide comments during public hearing on item number 58? I see none. I'm going to close the public hearing. Director Holtree, you want to come up and try to answer the couple of questions that we received?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you. Yes, this is just to align the zoning ordinance with the changes that we made in the general plan, so that when a major plan amendment is required, it is triggered at the 640 acres instead of the 1,800. The difference is if it's a minor plan amendment, you don't have to do some notification requirements and you can do it at any time throughout the year. With a major plan amendment, there's significant notification requirements as well as a certain time of the year that you can only do it. Along with other stipulations with the major plan amendment that come along with it. So this is just aligning what the board directed staff to change in the general plan with our zoning ordinance.
Thank you. I'd open it up to the board for discussion. Or a motion. Supervisor Martin.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. We approve.
Heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you. Move to our regular agenda, item number 59. No action necessary, information only regarding in-person early voting locations for primary election 2026. Recorder Henry.
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. I just wanted to take a brief moment and let everyone know about in-person early voting that will be held on June 24th to July 17th for the July 21st primary election. This year, we are excited to announce that we'll be hosting in-person early voting in Colorado City, in addition to the other 3 main Tri-Cities. Colorado City will be held on July 10th and 11th from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Mojave College. All other early voting locations are in Kingman, Havasu, and Bullhead at the Mojave County Libraries from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, including July 3rd, although our building is closed that day. All the other days, our building will be open for a drop box at 700 West Beale Street. If I may take just another brief moment, we have 90-day notices going out, and there is a large change to them. If anyone has been voting in a primary election in Arizona, we know that it is a party-specific election. Typically, Arizona has 5 political parties: the Republican, Democrat, no labels, independent, Republican, Democrat, no labels, Libertarian, and Green. If you're an independent or a party not designated other voter, you typically get to choose either between a Democratic or Republican ballot. This year, the no labels, many of us have heard of them. They were trying to change their name to Arizona Independent Party. That was denied, and they're remaining the no labels. In 2024, they didn't allow anyone to be on their ballot, so we had about 700 people registered in that party. They received an empty ballot. This year, there are some statewide candidates on that, and on a 90-day notice, this is what independent voters will be receiving, and it does have that they can choose a no labels party because they're having an open primary. So we would just like to remind everyone that when you receive the ballot of your choice, that is the ballot that you will only be receiving and eligible to vote. We're happy to answer any questions. Our office will be sending these out by April 22nd, 90 days before the election.
Thank you, Recorder Henry. Any questions? Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Recorder, is that new that we're notifying independents that they can request a party ballot?
No. On a 90-day notice, it is required if they're on the active early voting list, because we would need to know which ballot you wish to vote to be mailed to you in the timely manner.
So your office has always initiated that. It didn't flow the other way. They didn't have to request it.
They do have to request it. So this is just telling them, asking them which ballot they are wishing to request. So either on the 90-day notice, so they get it by mail in that first drop, which will be June 24th, or when they go in person, if they're not with a party, they would then say which of the 3 ballots they wish to vote.
So let me clarify. Is your office mailing that notice to all the voters registered PND and independent?
Yes.
And then they have to return that to your office?
Only if they're getting it by mail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how we've always done it? Or
yes.
For, let's say, the last cycle?
That's how we've always done it for a primary election,
Okay,
if you're
didn't
not
realize that.
affiliated.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for the update. We appreciate it. We're going to move to item number 61, and we'll come back to item number 60. Discussion, possible action, approve setting the annual salaries of the constables in the Bullhead City, Kingman, Surbat, and Lake Havasu City precincts at $55,000, moving to set the annual salary for the constable of the North Canyon precinct at $20,000. These salaries will be effective beginning January 1st, 2027, and will remain in effect for the entire 4-year term of office. Director Mornian, thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfelter, board members. I'll just give a quick rundown, some background on this item. the legislature updated the salary ranges for constables during the 2023 session, and so those will go into effect next January. This is very similar to how the Board of Supervisors salaries were adjusted in a prior year's legislation, and those new salaries went into effect last January. Constables' salaries are set by the board within the confines of statute, and the salaries are based primarily on two different pieces of data. The first being the average number of documents served within a constable's precinct over the last 4 years. If it is less than 100 on average, then the updated salary would be $20,000 per year. If they serve more than 100 documents on average over the last 4 years, then there are different salary bands that are directly tied to the number of registered voters within a precinct. So North Canyon is the only one of our 5 constable precincts that falls under 100 documents served on average over the last 4 years. And the other 4 constable precincts all have more than 16,000 registered voters, and so that salary band is $55,000 to $75,000 per year. And my recommendation, as the salaries are currently set at the statutory minimum, my recommendation is to continue that and increase North Canyon from 15 to 20,000, the statutory minimum, and then for the other 4 precincts, increase it from 50 to 55,000, also the statutory minimum.
Thank you for that presentation. Questions, discussion? Supervisor Martin.
Mr. Moroney, and I have a question. I mean, if I see this right, if we approve this and take them to 55,000, do they ever get any kind of a COLA raise or anything, or is it just they're locked in for 4 years at that number?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Martin, yes, they would be locked in at that salary for the next 4-year elected term, similar to how all elected officials don't get annual adjustments to their salary. The legislature is the one that determines when to adjust the salaries of elected officials, and it's typically done on whatever the term of that office is.
Okay, so we don't have any discretion in saying, hey, if you do a great job for the next couple of years, we're going to see you get a raise. We're locked in by statute.
Supervisor Martin, that is correct. And I'll just read. So the relevant ARS is 11-42401, and paragraph A says, at the regular June meeting of the several boards of supervisors preceding a general election, the board shall fix the salaries of constables to be elected for the 4-year period commencing on the first day of the following January. Obviously, it is April, it is not June. I am bringing this to the board now so that we know what number to include in the budget that will be presented later this month and which will be adopted in June. That will fulfill the requirements of statute when the board adopts a budget in June. I just need to know where we should put these in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Additional discussion. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Mournian, I believe we could set their pay at the high side also.
Supervisor Gould, you are absolutely correct.
So
my recommendation is my recommendation. It's up to the board to determine where they want to set the salaries.
No, I was just clarifying a statement that we're locked into this price, and we get to make that choice between the legislature sets a limit and a high limit.
Supervisor Gould, sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. What I meant is that whatever salary the board sets, the constables will be locked in at that for the next 4-year cycle. So
I don't even know that they're locked. I think we could come back and change if we so desired.
Respectfully, Supervisor, I disagree. The statute says that the board shall fix the salaries for the 4-year period that starts next January.
Okay.
Luke, I've got a couple of questions for you from a business perspective. So the statutory 4-year average on the number of documents served per year, I have for Bullhead City, statutory 4-year average is 371 documents a year. For Surbat Precinct, 387 documents per year. For Kingman, 4-year average by statute, 645 documents. For Lake Havasu City, 493 documents, and statutory 4-year average for North Canyon is 95 documents. Is that correct?
That agrees with the data that I have.
Okay, so that's the 4-year average. And then when I go to their ClearGov 3-year comparison on their budget, for Bullhead City Precinct, fiscal year 25, Mojave County is in the red, a little over 73,000. Fiscal year 26, a little in the red, a little over 105,000. Proposed fiscal year 27, a little over 109,000 in the red. Surbat 2025, a little over 107,000 in the red. 2026, 124.6 thousand in the red. Fiscal year 27 proposed 124,500 in the red. Kingman, we've got fiscal year 25, $86,000, a little over that in the red. Fiscal year 26, $92,000 in the red. Proposed fiscal year 27, $101,800 in the red. Lake Havasu City, 2025, a little over $96,000 in the red. 2026, almost $100,000 in the red. $99,973 is the precise number there. Fiscal year 27 proposed, a little over $111,000 in the red. North Canyon, $47,000 in the red. 25, 26, $48,000 in the red. 27, $52,000 in the red. So total net expense to our general fund in 2025 is a negative $410,000. 2026, negative $470,000, and proposed fiscal year 27, $499,425. This is a statutory service. I understand that, and this is not anything against our constables. But from a business standpoint, what other business would do that and lose $500,000 almost every year? I mean, we have to do it, but I think that with that data, it makes sense to set the salaries at the lowest level. And I think that if you're going to be running for that office, I mean, just like every other office, I think the supervisors, the treasurer, the recorder, when the salaries change, they change for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a supervisor or the treasurer or the recorder, we all get a set amount, and it doesn't change. So I would support your recommendation. I'd open it up for additional discussion. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The numbers that you were quoting, do those include any fees for documents served for the courts?
I would refer that question to Director.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould. So the numbers that Chairman Lingenfelter was quoting were the net. So that was expenses less any fee revenue that was brought in.
So do they charge a fee when the court sends them out to serve a paper?
It depends on whether if it is just kind of government to government business, then there would not be any sort of fee assessed or collected. But if the court is getting documents from through a third party and then asking the constable to serve those, or if it is a service that the court charges a fee for, then a fee would be assessed and collected.
Do we have numbers for those services that don't involve a fee? Because the constable still has to serve those, and they aren't really going into his income column of his ledger.
We get monthly what they call a constable's daily activity log, and so those log detail would show, if there was a serve that was performed where no fee was collected, it would be indicated on that daily activity log. I do not have a breakdown of that. Not something that we currently track, whether we track the total amount of fee revenue that is received.
But they're required to serve those documents. And if we're going to look at it from a business model, then they're not really, those bring in no income, yet they're required to serve those papers.
That is
so
correct.
I don't know that really that the revenue model is actually a fair model to the constables if they're required to serve documents that they receive no fee from.
And Supervisor, I believe that is why the first data metric that their salary is based on is just the number of documents served. The statute doesn't say anything about whether there's revenue collected associated with that service. It's just how many. It's basically the level of activity.
No, and I understand that, but when we're bringing up what their actual revenue is, that's just a revenue number. So the documents that don't require a fee would not add anything to the revenue number if we're judging them merely on the revenue number and the poor business model that it is. Most of those fees are set by the state legislature, the fees that are actually collected. Maybe the legislature needs to take a look at those fees to make sure that we are actually recovering the money that the constables are expending because we're required to have them serve those documents. If we can't set those fees and somebody else does that and the fees are set too low that you can't recover your costs, then the fees are probably set too low.
Supervisor Gould, I'm not going to argue with you about that at all. I would just say that there's a lot of mandated services that the county is required to provide. Most of them don't cover the cost of providing them. It's just the cost of doing business as a government. So I completely agree with you. And as far as what the legislature does or does not, or how they set things, I have also advised the constables, if they're looking for adjustments in those statutory salaries, that's something they could pursue legislatively.
But that burden doesn't really fall on them. It falls on the taxpayers of the county and the supervisors that have to approve the stuff.
The salaries, absolutely. Whether or not to pursue legislative action, the constables have a statewide association that could do that for them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got one follow-up question. Is it the judges that determine whether a document is referred for service to the constables or a private process server? Because I know there's private process servers out there as well that will do service of documents. Is there a distinction? That might be a question for the courts. I'm not sure.
Chairman, that would absolutely be a question for the courts. I'm not equipped to answer that.
Okay.
Chairman Lingenfelter, I can answer that question.
Yeah, please, Attorney Davis.
So we on the plaintiff side, we're able to select who we want to be the process server, so long as they're a certified process server, so a constable, a sheriff, or a private certified process server. The county often uses the constable because it's government to government, but when we go outside of the county, we have to serve someone in Maricopa County, we usually go with the cheapest and easiest route, whatever that may be. That could be a constable, that could be a private process server. So it depends on expenses to the plaintiff. And bigger firms may have an agreement with a process serving organization where they get improved fees for routinely using them. And so it's a cost-benefit analysis on the plaintiff side.
Got it. Well, I raised the question because if you have a criminal justice service, somebody has to pay for that. It's either the taxpayers that pay for your criminal justice service or it's the customer that has to pay for the criminal justice service. I would love to see the customer pay the criminal justice service that they're using first, if it's possible, and then if for some reason they can't, then it falls on the taxpayers to cover their criminal justice service. Does that make sense? That's why I ask questions. Whoever is going through the criminal justice process, the person that's getting the protective order, the person that's going for a divorce, the person that's doing all that, I mean, they're customers. Additional discussion? I'd open it up for a motion.
Chair, I'll move to approve item 61 as read with the base pay of $55,000 a year.
Sir, do I have a second?
And $20,000 for Surbat.
Thank you, Supervisor Lettman. Thank you for the second, Supervisor. Any additional discussion?
Chairman, I believe the motion that was just made, you specified $20,000 for Surbat. It's for North Canyon.
$20,000 for North Canyon. Thank you.
Yeah, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. You have it, so ordered. Item number 60, discussion, possible action, adopt a tiered salary compensation structure for Mojave County constables pursuant to ARS 11-42401, as recommended by the constables in the backup. Constable Hogarth.
Chairman Lingenfelder and Supervisors. I'm Constable Mike Hogarth. I'm the presiding constable for the county. First off, if I can clear up a couple of points. This thing with number of serves a year, okay, that is actual papers that are served to the person. I could get 30 papers this month and make 70 attempts to serve those papers and only get 3 of them served, and that's the 3. Even though I tried 70 times and I was working those days, I only get credit for 3. So that saying that that's how much we work is an understatement. Okay? That's just what the state decided to go with. As far as paperwork, our fees and everything, the constable's office is not there to create or generate revenue. Your police departments, are they there to generate revenue or to serve the public? Your sheriff's office, is the sheriff there to generate revenue or are they there to serve the public? The constable's office is there to serve the public. We're not there to try to generate revenue for the county. Anytime revenue starts becoming your primary objective, the system becomes polluted. We see that continually through the legal system. Okay. As far as you all received copies of what the constables were requesting. There are a couple of changes to that. First change, that COLA needs to come out of there because we don't receive a COLA. Okay. The other one is the salaries for the North Canyon Constable. That needs to come out of there because it's by statute. Your North Canyon Constable is not getting actual serves. There's a lot of attempts out there, but actual serves is probably under that 100 a year. The other thing is the North Canyon Constable does not have the number of registered voters. So the North Canyon Constable is capped at that 20,000. My plea is for you guys, 4 years ago, the 4 constables, their salaries were cut. And I don't think it was right that they were cut. Right now, the new legislation is they start at the bottom is 55. They were making 58, and they were cut to 50. At the very least, I would like to see that come up to where they were at least the 58, at the bare minimum. The tier system, there are a lot of counties in the state that is using the tier system. Several of those counties, Maricopa being one of them, didn't want to have to worry about where the constables were sitting, what term they were in, where they sat as far as on that tier system. Maricopa County went to the max. They just went to the max, paid everybody that, just to make it easy. That is basically my request, is that you guys be fair with these other 4 constables. at least take them back to that 58 where they were at. You have the authority to go higher. One of the constables is going to be starting his third term this next year. I will be starting my fourth. But that's what my request is. Be fair with the other four. Take them back to that 58 where they were, at least at the bare bones minimum. I guess, do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Constable. Any questions for Constable Hoggard? Supervisor Martin, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, in light of what our previous deal where we voted on it, I think it's almost a moot point. But I will say this, nobody forces anybody to be a constable. If you want to be a constable, then you know what the salary is, you should know what the duties are, and just like any other elected official, if you choose to run for that position as an elected official, you know what the salary is. And I think we all see that. Everybody in the county sees that. But I just think that being a constable, since it is an elected position, you're not on the same deal as if you were a county employee. So looking at that, I think that, before you pull papers to become a constable, you should know what your salary is going to be, and you need to be good with that. And if you're not good with it, don't run for the position. I'm sure there will be others that would like to make $55,000 a year. That's not chump change in today's economy, for sure. So I would just say, know what you're running for, know what you're going to get paid for it, and decide what you're going to do. If you're, that's your decision. And you're right, the board has a lot of leeway, I think, in these salaries, but I also think that the legislature, we have to listen to what they say. And frankly, when you say that Maricopa County starts at the highest level, that just floors me, because we're talking about taxpayer money here. That's what we're talking about. And, we've heard from our chief financial officer, and me as a supervisor, I got to put in a lot what he's got to say, because he's the one that deals with numbers. But again, know what office you're running for, know what the salary is. I understand what you're saying, I do. And I don't know why the salaries were cut from 58 back to 50. I don't know why that happened, but something tells me there was a reason. I just don't know what it was. But I'm just, I'm saying we voted, it's going to be 55,000. And if somebody doesn't want to work for that, then don't pull paper.
Other discussion? Supervisor Gould, thank you.
I move that the board reconsider its actions on item 61 to raise the pay of the constables back to what their previous pay was 8 years ago at $58,000.
One second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion fails. I'll make a comment just explaining my previous vote. I have respect for all of our constables, but this is a general fund expense. Mojave County, we have everybody that's after our general fund, and we don't have significant revenue to cover all of the things that the general fund has to cover. That's one thing. The second thing is, and it's not in disrespect to the constables, but I don't think that you can really do an apples to apples comparison with the sheriff's office, because we have privatized private process servers. We don't have privatized sheriff's deputies. And I don't think that we should ever have private law enforcement in a county. Are you guys post certified?
Some are.
Some are. And you guys are allowed to carry in case you get into a dangerous situation. Is that right?
We are allowed to carry through post, Arizona Post. We have to go through their training and qualify. Arizona Post qualification, the same as law.
Are you able to place anybody under an arrest if they threaten you?
We are a peace officer, yes, we can. And in some of the counties, they actually have constables that is their job, is civil arrest warrants. That they go out, and that's what they are doing. That's their job, is arresting people on civil warrants. Here, we don't have cages in our unit, so we're not going to, and we use our private vehicles, so we're not going to put somebody in our private vehicle to try to transport them.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate all the things that you all do as constables. It's just, I think that there's so much competition for the general fund, and I think that we're in a structural deficit still. So that's the basis of my vote. Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And you made up a good point on comparisons. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to Maricopa County because they have completely different tax structure. They have sales tax. They get the Wayfair money. They get all kinds of funds for that. So they got even secondary property taxes. So that's one of the reasons why they can get away with paying that top tier. Just to make a point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
I was on the board when that decision was made to reduce the salary of the constables. I did not vote. I voted no on that. But I'm going to have my assistant look up the date of that meeting so that the public and the board can go back and look and see what a poorly thought out plan that was hatched from the dais. It was not well thought out, and I think it was retaliatory. But I'd like that they'll be available and the public can take a look at it and the board members can take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. The proposal that we voted on before, Director Mornian, does that take them from 50,000 up to 55,000 in January 2027? Is that a 5,000 increase?
Chairman Lingenfelter, yes, that's correct for the 4 precincts other than North Canyon.
Does that also factor in are they on the PSPRS, the elected or the elected official retirement? Does that factor in as well?
Chairman Lingenfelter, I believe they are in PSPRS. I'm not sure. Constable, yes. Yes, that's correct.
Sure. I wasn't sure because there was a law enforcement tangent to it, so. Yeah. Okay. So it'll be the 5,000 is just a base salary.
That's correct, Chairman Lingenfelter.
Okay. Okay. Any additional discussion before we move on to 62? Hearing none. Thank you. Thank you, Constable. 62, discussion, possible action, review the fiscal year opioid settlement grantee activities to date and receive details for the fiscal year 27 award cycle. Director Palmer.
Good morning, board. Let me get my presentation up. Okay, so today will be our annual overview of what we have done thus far with the opioid grants, and then the update for the upcoming year, the planning. Okay, for fiscal year 2026, this is a list of the awardees, the amount that each of the awardees received, and each district that funded these. You will notice that there are 2 programs that received multiple funding from multiple districts. The first one that we will highlight is Arizona Youth Partnership. This is District 1 funding. The information on this slide, and you'll notice this on all of the slides. There's various dates for these because of the reporting cadence and what information we had on hand to develop this presentation. So for Arizona Youth Partnership in District 1, it was connecting people to care, supporting criminal justice involved youth, and preventing opioid misuse in youth. So far, 39% of the budget was spent, and again, that was as of January 2026. For Arizona Youth Partnership in District 3, again, the reporting period from July 2025 to January 2026. Goals were connecting people to care, supporting criminal justice involved youth, and preventing opioid misuse in youth, and 39% of the budget has been spent as of January. And then in District 4, same goals, connecting people to care, supporting criminal justice involved youth, and then preventing opioid misuse in youth, and 39% of the budget was spent. Cherished Families was another District 1 project. This is through February of 2026. Their goals included mental health services, outreach and education, case management, peer support, and 56% of the budget has been spent as of February. Creek Valley Healthcare, their key highlights were patients supported through case management, hours of behavioral therapy, and direct care, case management sessions, overall screenings conducted, outreach and education events, treatment plans documented, and patients assisted with insurance navigation, and 50% of their budget has been spent as of December. West Care, which is a District 2 project, goals were increase the availability and access to evidence-based treatment services to reduce opioid misuse and the related health consequences in Mojave County, and reduce the behavioral and social consequences related to opioid misuse by increasing access to and availability of recovery support funds. Percentage of budget spent as of February is 40%. Southwest Behavioral, another District 2 project, 51% of their budget has been spent, and they focused on peer support, outreach activities, referrals, and preventative measures. Catholic Charities, another District 2 project. Through February 2026, they continue to provide essential support services to individuals experiencing homelessness and substance use challenges, and they have spent 69% of their budget. Lake Havasu Justice Court received funding from both District 3 and District 5, and through February of 2026, they have connected criminal defendants who are first-time opioid offenders to treatment services in the community, finding appropriate dispositions to criminal charges, ensuring public safety and reducing recidivism, increasing collaboration and addiction issues being addressed at lower level courts, and their budget spent to date is 15 as of February, 15%. M-STEP, this is a District 4 project. Their goals were connecting to treatment, finding appropriate dispositions to criminal charges, ensuring public safety and reducing recidivism, increasing collaboration, and addressing addiction issues at lower court levels. And as of February, they have spent 60% of their budget. Kingman Regional Medical Center, another District 4 project. They work with pre-screening patients, especially in the emergency department. They do warm handoffs and refer to treatment. And as of February 2026, 99% of their budget has been spent. Teen Challenge of Arizona, this is a District 5 project. Their goals are to support men, women, and adolescent girls in achieving and sustaining freedom from addiction, foster personal growth, and equip graduates for stable, productive lives, and strengthen community impact and family restoration. To date, they have spent 0% of their budget. However, they are actively working with us through the process. And Mojave County Sheriff's Office, This is a District 5 project. Goals include establish a process for reviewing and approving narcotics training requests, ensure opioid settlement funds support approved relevant training, and track participation and outcomes after training is completed. So you'll see that the Sheriff's Office, their number one goal is training for their staff. 0% of their budget had been spent as of the reporting period. However, they are also actively working with us, and they do have some trainings that are scheduled between now and June 30th. And Hushabye Nursery, this is a District 4 project. Hushabye Nursery, they work one-to-one with pregnant and parenting women who are impacted by substance use. And this includes infants with neonatal abstinence syndrome. They have spent 83% of their budget to date, or as of February 2026. Anteros Health, which is a District 4 project. They do the Crisis to Recovery program, which includes behavioral health and substance use disorder services, assessments, referrals, intensive outpatient programs, and community engagement. They have spent 100% of their budget as of February. Any questions on any of those projects?
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director. Neonatal abstinence syndrome?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
It's a child that has been born. They were exposed to substances within the womb, and when they are born, they do not continue to receive substances, but they have all the withdrawal effects of being exposed to the substances, and so then they need additional holding care to get them through that process of withdrawing.
It seems like a strange name to place on that.
It is, yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Please continue.
Okay, so then the next steps for our fiscal year 2027, the amount per district that we have available this year is $230,000. And then the key deadlines, today's April 6th, I'm doing my annual report to the board. April 10th, work plans and budgets for selected projects are due to public health. This will provide public health time to review all of the documents, make sure everything's in order. And then by May 1st, we will forward those projects to the county attorney's office so that they can then develop the funding agreements, which will come back to the Board of Supervisors on the June 15th agenda. And that's what I have.
Thank you for the presentation. Any additional questions for Director Palmer? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Move to item number 63, discussion possible action. I won't read this into the record. Director Latosky, you want to come just give a brief overview of this? Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. This item concerns the Lake Powell Pipeline project. It's an important project for Washington County. It's in development and designed to divert an amount of surface water, Colorado River surface water, to Washington County. Recently, Washington County sent a packet to Public Works staff. It consists of a permanent easement as well as an offer of $19,000 to Mojave County to acquire the rights for that permanent easement across quite a large section. It was about 1 acre of the 5 acres of land that the Mojave County holds in fee title for the North Canyon Justice Court as well as the Sheriff's Substation. I have here, if the camera can pull this up, an exhibit which shows the extent of that permanent easement. Okay, you see that there. As you can tell, the limits of the permanent easement actually goes well into the parking area of the North Canyon Justice Court and basically up to the front door of the Sheriff's Substation. So there are three things for me to consider. One, the importance of this project, the Lake Powell Pipeline project. Two, staff being presented with a formal permanent perpetual grant, perpetual easement grant, as well as an appraisal, which I deem necessary to present to the board. And third, the level of encroachment of this permanent easement, because under the terms of the grant, of the granting of the easement, the county would be precluded from doing any construction that would preclude the grantee, the Washington County, from utilizing the property. So essentially, it would create potentially a problem for future development around the North Canyon Justice Court with this exclusion for occupying or otherwise doing any construction within the permanent easement. So as it results, this item presents for the board's consideration to reject the permanent easement as written. However, I do wish to note that we're also asking the staff to allow us to continue to working with Washington County, and I will update. I did work this past week with Washington County, and I'll show what we put up and what we were able to work out. I went into the engineering documents for the plan of development for this pipeline, and the pipeline's own engineer in their plan of development basically prescribes a 30-foot offset from highways as well as a 100-foot permanent easement. Well, the original proposal that was presented to staff was well over that 100 foot. So I went back to Washington County, and they were great to work with, by the way. And I said that in accordance with your own plan of development, if we only take 30 feet off of State Route 389 plus 100 feet, you see here in the exhibit, it basically places us not into encroaching upon the North Canyon Justice Court parking area, and Washington County is fine with that. So what I would request for the board is to perhaps direct staff to go back with Washington County, obtain a modified legal description for the permanent easement, as well as a new appraisal. One interesting thing about this was all of these documents were dated 2024. And they were just sent to us. They didn't approach us with any, discussion or working things out. So again, my recommendation for the board is just to consider us going back to Washington County. They said they will update the appraisal as well as the permanent easement, and then staff feels that is reasonable.
Thank you for the presentation. Any comments? Supervisor Martin.
Yes, sir. I find this interesting that they're building a pipeline from Lake Powell into Washington County, which that's Colorado River water. It's already over allocated, and yet they're going to go. I got a little background information on it that they can do this. But my question is, in light of the big picture, where the Colorado River is so over allocated, now we're going to stick another straw in Lake Powell and siphon more water off. So I'm just wondering, it's kind of an interesting conundrum to see happening. I know the people in Washington County were insistent that their commissioners do this to pull that water, but I don't know. I don't know if the federal government can come in and say, sorry, we don't have any water. So I'm kind of curious about that, but I think if, in light of what you're saying, that this is a 2024 submittal, that you do go back and let's update it, and then, but I'm just curious how it's going to end. But I think the way you're doing it is the right approach for sure.
Supervisor Martin, you're spot on. They can build this pipeline, but is Utah going to have any water to put in it?
Yeah.
I don't know. From what we've seen from this whole post-2026 process, that remains to be seen. There's probably going to be a lot of litigation.
Yeah.
And we got to get through that before there's going to be any water to put through this pipeline.
Well, and that's a multi-million-dollar project, because it's about, how far is it from Powell to Washington County? 50 miles? Overland, or
more than that?
More than that?
More than that.
It's much more than that.
More than that.
Oh.
Yeah. Certainly don't want to see, it's a little disconcerting that they've been in the works on this and not contacted us prior to this. So that's a little disconcerting, but also certainly we don't want to have any negative impacts to our operations up there. So is there a reason why they didn't ask ADOT maybe they don't want to work with ADOT. They want to work with you better. You're friendlier.
I don't know about that, but Chairman Lingenfelter, they did have a realty agent work for them, a consulting firm work on this realty aspect. And I must say that BLM did reach out to the county through Public Works on this notice of development. So we did comment early on in the process, but I just want to express that we weren't involved in any discussions on the permanent easement over the county property here until now.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly for letting you go and revise some sort of a permanent easement. I mean, we don't want to have any sort of negative impact to our property. This is not our problem. This is their problem. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Lettman, and then I'll get to you, Attorney Davis. Oh, Supervisor, okay.
I just wanted to alert the board the way the motion is written. It's a reject request, so it's a double negative. So you would want to approve the agenda item to reject rather than deny the agenda item.
Approve the item to reject, and then direct staff to
whatever the board
go back
wants
to the
do after
drawing
that.
board.
Yes.
And I will go ahead and move to approve item 63 as read, which includes continuing to work with Washington County on this.
Thank you, Supervisor Lettman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Additional discussion. Supervisor Martin.
I'm confused. I thought we just got direction that we should approve to reject, but did you not just make a motion to say you wanted to approve as read?
Yeah, which includes reject request of Washington County Water Conservation. So it's a double negative. It's
okay.
He said approve as written.
Okay, got it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have its order. Thank you. Attorney Latosky, you have one other additional item. Accept the staff report on feasibility and constraints for a future BLM recreation and public purposes lease on the adjacent approximately 9.8 acre BLM parcel known as APN 404-19149 for future revenue producing activities lodging comparable in concept to cabins at Davis Camp in Walpi Mountain Park.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. I have a very brief presentation. First thing I'd like to get off with your fancy slides. We took an opportunity, I did, to reach out to the Arizona Strip, the BLM office of the Arizona Strip, working directly with their field manager, Lorraine Christian. We did meet via Teams on March 24th with Lorraine, as well as the assistant field district manager and their realty specialist. I must acknowledge that the field manager, as well as the realty specialist, did make a special trip to look at the BLM site. And this slide here shows the Short Creek Bike Skills Park property on the left-hand side highlighted. That's about an 11-acre parcel. And just on the right-hand side, the right-hand image shows this BLM parcel. Everything is BLM lands to the east of the Bike Skills Park. And this particular highlighted parcel is a parcel that could be available for recreation and public purposes lease. It's almost 10 acres. To the south and east of there is all Cottonwood Point wilderness area. So that, of course, is protected and not available for lease. But BLM did make a special trip to tour the property, and I as well made a trip before the parties met via Teams. And it was a good opportunity. It was a good discussion on March 24th, which is the basis for this presentation, by which we now understand both the feasibility and the constraints of developing the property through an RPMP lease. This is just a snapshot of the topography. The subject property is in yellow. It's a fairly rolling terrain with elevation increasing to the south and east. You'll see there in the white, that's the wilderness area. The more concentrated topographic contours are a bluff that you'll see in the next photo. Here's a photo that I took standing on top of a really nice mound on the Bike Skills Park property. That's a property that will be developed for the Bike Skills Park. And where I kind of circled in yellow is more or less where this particular BLM parcel is. To the immediate east of the Bike Skills Park. There in the background, you see that bluff that you kind of saw there in the topographic map. This is just a typical landscape of the BLM parcel. It's rather sloping, fairly steadily to the south and east. In the discussion with BLM, we as staff had a pretty clear understanding of where BLM stood on this parcel. First and foremost, they are open to seeing it develop. What they like about that idea is potentially the boundaries be fenced so it can kind of prevent future encroachment by motorized dirt bikes, etc., into the wilderness area, which we do understand from BLM is happening. However, some constraints, and I guess the leading constraint is BLM is not open to anything more than just clearing and grubbing. They do not want to see any significant grading of the area. They're afraid of soil erosion, and basically that kind of sets the table. And my last slide would be two of the options that staff has come up with the input from BLM, that developing cabins and even RV spaces for motor vehicles is pretty much off the table with BLM. So the options that they would be amenable to are twofold. One would be more of just a walking camp option with tent sites and community facilities. When you talk about the revenue generating component of that, I look at Burrow Creek Campground that BLM runs just south of Wickiup. They do have a web-based reservation type of element in there that is kind of premised on the honor system. Although I do know BLM law enforcement does go out there to check on things and make sure people are being honest that are making reservations and using the campsite, and also developing some just auxiliary, as I call them, auxiliary bike trails that can go into the BLM area, for persons that may not be using the bike skills park per se, but still have access to that. There's also a mixed use option that BLM suggested to us. This is not a staff option. I'm just bringing this to the board as BLM feedback, and that is the consideration developing part of the bike skills park or all the bike skills park on the BLM property and basically flipping it. So you develop the lodging on the bike skills park property and the bike skills park on the BLM property. Honestly, just looking at it myself, I really like the layout of the bike skills park property as it stands today. I like the more rectangular layout of it that allows for longer trails, etc. So in summary for the board to consider, it is a very clear position from BLM to staff that they see as a constraint of developing any revenue generating cabins or other more robust vacation homes or even RV spaces, but they would be amenable to a non-motorized access such as walk-in camping with other amenities like maybe auxiliary bike. And that's my report.
Thank you, Director. Supervisor Martin, you had a question?
Yes, I do. In this thing here, it talks about Wildfire Mountain Park. I don't see the nexus between Wildfire Mountain Park and the bike trails up there. So if you could explain that.
Thank you. Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Martin, I was just making a nexus between the cabins at Wildfire Mountain Park, developing cabins like we have at Wildfire Mountain Park. I'm sorry I wasn't clear.
Okay, that's fine.
Again, I appreciate your report. I would hope that you and your Parks Director, who I think is really the right guy for that job, would continue to look at that property and maybe come back to the board with something that you guys think would be the best. I think if anybody would know, Bo would know.
Absolutely.
So that's where I stand on that. Additional discussion. It says discussion possible action, so I'll make a motion to accept the staff report.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes appear to have it. Do have it. It's ordered. Thank you, Director. Item 65, discussion possible action, the Vector Training Program and implementation of a non-punitive approach for employees with delayed or incomplete assignments for the current year. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had some employees express concern that they would be held punitive on the fact they hadn't completed their Vector training because I and the board put a hold on that. I just wanted to make sure that the employees would not have any punitive consequences from the board putting that on hold.
Appreciate that. Director Demers?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Supervisor Gold and members of the board. Yes, there will be no since the beginning, we will not be having any punitive, like measures against people that don't complete the training. We have been engaging with every single employee that have questions or ask for extensions, so it looks like there's somewhat of like a good engagement. And we will continue and approving, extensions and allowing people to complete the trainings as, they need time to complete.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Supervisor Martin, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, but if you say that you're supposed to do this, but then there's no consequence if you don't, what's the incentive to do it then? I mean, if we said you got to go to this training, but then we say, hey, if you don't do it, don't worry about it. So where's that go?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Martin. So we continue to engage with everybody to really continue taking the training. At this point in time, we have just a little under 280 employees that have not completed the trainings. From those, we have about 60 people that are missing just one training to complete to the program. It looks like in a certain way there is a lot of engagement. We actually had some supervisors that request additional training, not only for them, but for their staff. So we will be working and showing the importance of taking the training, but instead of taking an approach that, this is a strict deadline, we are now just going over and explaining why this is important for your personal or professional development, for risk safety, to maintain the properties. So it looks like it's moving and everybody is engaged in a certain form.
Director Demers, maybe you could refresh my memory. Was the timeline, was it fiscal year or was it calendar year?
So we put it on a calendar year. This first group that we put for training, this first package, this robust package, the deadline initially was set for April 15th. So we are going to continue extending as needed. Some of the trainings that were going to be repeated, they are biannual trainings.
I'm going to have to go back and review some of the board discussion. I thought that we were going to pause on year two, whatever if it was fiscal year or calendar year, or you said it's April 15th, it was the end of the initial 1 year period. Is that correct? Or
No, I'm sorry. No, when we issued the trainings in January with, this was January to December, and we asked everybody to try to complete, the package by April 15th.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
My concern was that the board put a pause on it and that the employees would then miss the deadline. This is not an ongoing thing. It's just for this one fiscal year.
I appreciate you putting this on the agenda, Supervisor Gould. Thank you. Any other discussion? Does your motion require an action, Supervisor?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second. For that motion and second, any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you. Item number 66, for information only, discussion of Mojave County Wildfire Outlook briefing for 2026. Richard Latoski.
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Browning, our emergency manager. Mike has been with Mojave County Emergency Management for over 2 decades. He's extremely well seasoned and, in my opinion, the best county emergency manager in the state. And we'll look forward to bringing you up to speed with regard to the outlook for our wildfire season, which is rapidly approaching.
Thank you. Thank you. Mike, thank you for being with us here today. It's so hot and dry out there. I'm glad that you were able to accommodate me putting this on the agenda for everybody.
Well, this is a pleasure to have the opportunity to share this briefing with you all this morning. I'll go ahead and get to the slide presentation with you. about that. Okay. So the information collected in this briefing this morning was collected through a large partnership of agencies that we work with annually, which include the Arizona BLM, Arizona Strip, the Kingman BLM, the Arizona State Forester, the local fire chiefs, and the National Weather Service. Sorry about that. So starting with where we're at right now, the National Weather Service gave us this slide, which represents the last 6 months, and it pretty much represents the winter precip amounts that we've collected here locally. So you can see in the image that a large portion of Mojave County is well below the normal winter precip that we would annually receive. There's some sections there around the Bullhead City, Colorado River Valley, which you can see was a little closer to normal, and a section to the east down by Wickiup, Baghdad, closer to Yavapai County, which was a little bit above average. Some of those precips were probably due to the amount of rain that we saw in late summer or September rain totals that probably helped bring those numbers up in that area. Yeah, I'm having problems with this thing. Left mouse button. Okay, get this thing out of here. Thank you, Steve. Another National Weather Service image here shows that the annual snowfall for Mojave County, going back to records in 2008 to present, you can see here just in the image that in some portions of the county we can receive up to 2 inches or 24 inches, 2 feet of snow in the Wallapies. And there are areas around the Arizona Strip and the Kingman zone here that you can get snow, which is typically about 1 or 2 inches. This year's image, you can see a well below average snowfall. Again, the upper Wallapies has received anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of snow, which typically, again, we would see anywhere towards the 24 inches. What are we going to be expecting this summer? So the long-term outlook for the season is increasing temperatures. We're not going to be extreme up there like you see up there in Utah, but it's a likelihood that we'll have a longer summer, higher temperatures, which are going to impact our current drought. That drought extends a good 10 to 15 years going back. And if El Nino comes together, there's some forecasting that shows that if that all plays out the way we're looking at it, that we'll see above normal rainfalls around Flagstaff, the Four Corners area, and Mojave County's got a little leading edge there where we might be at or above precip rainfall totals. Here are some of the things that the county has in place. We've done this for many decades, but it's going to run through the list here. So this is in-house protective measures. So emergency management has put together many IGAs, intergovernmental agreements between the BLM and the Wallapai Park to help protect the park during fire season. This is almost like an insurance. So having this up front keeps the county from having to pay those federal firefighting resource costs that could be associated with slurry bombers or other equipment that's brought in to fight forest fires. In turn, the county assists the BLM currently with some road maintenance work on the evacuation route that BLM has that goes out the backside of Pine Lake down through Yellow Pine, the lower backside of the Wallapies. There's no current cost to the county. We share those resources together when needed. The Pine Lake Fire District has an agreement with the Wallapai Park, the county as well. That fire district provides EMS and structure fire protection for the park. And it currently the county parks is paying around $10,000 annually for that service. We have a cooperative agreement with the Department of Forest and Fire Management, which also addresses current use of the park, like renting the cabins during the summer months for fire crews. We also have an IGA with the State Forester and Fire Management, so that when we're bringing those resources together on a large fire, a lot of those activities and interactions between the county and the state are covered. And we have a fire plan that goes back some 30 years, where each year we bring those fire agencies together. We go through the plan, revise it, and we conduct a tabletop exercise with those first responders that typically would be responding to the Wildfire communities during a fire. Any questions on any of those several items? Questions for the board? Good. So the state fire provided the next couple of slides, kind of gives you a back view of what the 2024 fire season looked like. And the numbers here represent human-caused fires or natural caused fires. Most of those human-caused fires, 125, would occur along our interstates. Vehicles carrying trailers, chains dragging on the roadside, things of that nature tend to start those grass fires, and those will move into the surrounding properties. Natural fires, obviously, when we have that first set of monsoon shows up in June, dry lightning starts to impact the region and setting off our more complex and problem fires that we have to work with. So looking here, the next one should be 25. So last year was a little lighter. Only looking at about 86 human-caused fires and then 32 natural fires. To add to that, some of those human-caused fires can be related to rubbish burning in the unincorporated areas of the county where trash pickup may not be available. So this graph here kind of gives you an overview of what emergency management does throughout the season as we kind of look at rating how that wildland fire risk comes together. So obviously, already we've been seeing couple of weeks of that high extreme heat. That starts to dry our lower elevation deserts grasses out and puts an additional amount of time on our forest as far as impacts to our ponderosa pine. So as those things become more dominant, red flag conditions are issued by the National Weather Service. That kind of gets us paying attention to a lot of other factors that come together. We monitor wildland fire risks through our local fire chiefs. So we have face-to-face conversations, meetings, outreach to kind of see what each community is doing or how that drought and the conditions are impacting their areas. We pretty much want to make sure that when those chiefs are telling us that their communities are threatened at a higher level, that we start looking at those fire restrictions. And we're going to be looking at fire restrictions in a united front because we've always had a good working opportunity with the state forestry and the BLM and going into fire restrictions together. It also minimizes the community from having information that might be confusing on where they can have a campfire or where fireworks might be restricted and those types of activities when that does occur. We're also looking at the availability of wildland fire resources. What's available in our backyard. So many of our small districts have wildland response crews that are reaching out across the state, local communities, and out of state during fire season. So when those small districts start moving resources out of area, that increases the local threat, and that's a factor that we're paying attention to. I've already mentioned that we try to enter the fire season restrictions as a united front. So we have a meeting our statewide meeting each week where all those public safety agencies that have fire restrictions are kind of sharing what those conditions look like and coordinating when we all want to go into fire season restrictions. And then finally, when all those things kind of come together, we're first part of June typically is when that a fire emergency is called, and we're coming to you at the board level and asking for fire restrictions to stay in place until those conditions change. It's usually about August when monsoon kicks in and starts dropping that needed precip that we need to kind of dampen down those restrictions, and we can typically leave those by September. Any questions on that flow chart?
Questions from the board?
So some of the activities that are currently underway this year, the Arizona Forest and Fire Management received a $3.7 million grant a year and a half ago through the federal government to treat the Wildfire Mountain communities in fire mitigation activities. And to date, the state forester has brought in crews to treat about 80 some acres of existing fire line that goes around the Pine Lake community. They plan on being up at Camp Levy and the Wallapies here in the next couple of weeks to treat another 20 acres. They have implemented a Firewise program for property owners in those communities to learn what they can do to mitigate fire risk around their homes. And they've treated some 30 properties in that community, private properties in that community, with that grant funding. They'll be moving down the mountain into the Pine Lake Pinyon Pine community here shortly, looking at some additional projects that will be worked out through the summer and next fall. And then finally, the state forester oversees that Firewise training. So they have several classes that these property owners can attend and learn what they can do to be self-efficient and better protect their neighborhoods. So Firewise has been around some 30 some years. NFPA utilizes that standard and shares it across the country to different fire jurisdictions and communities. But it's pretty much about family preparedness. Again, as I said, what can a person do on their property to mitigate and lower that wildland fire risk? They look at things like emergency egress in and out of the property, making sure that fire engines and equipment can get in and out. The residents can leave, removal of hazardous vegetation, maybe amping up water supplies like additional water tanks if you're in rural areas where fire hydrants aren't present. And it also gives an opportunity for communities like the county or a city the ability to adopt or enact fire safety and building codes that address the wildland risk. So Firewise isn't just a prevention program, but an all-community standard that helps reduce and mitigate wildland impacts. This is just an example of what a private property owner can do to look at mitigating those risks on their properties. And you can see here that within a 30-foot perimeter of a home, it's pretty much removing anything combustible outside. As you go farther out from that location, it's thinning the trees out. It's just reducing that fuel load so that when a wildfire impacts that neighborhood, it doesn't have the fuel to burn into the home itself. When a fire threatens a community in the county, the sheriff's office, the search and rescue, we go into those neighborhoods, we go door to door with our volunteers and staff, and we get people prepared to leave. And the Ready, Set, Go program gives an opportunity for the public to learn how to become ready. And if their community is impacted by that fire, what does the term set mean? Where do they need to be technically so that if that deputy comes back, that volunteer comes back and says it's time to leave, that they're prepared to leave. And then the go status is when we do say it's time to leave your home because the fire's down the street. So I brought several of those handouts. They're in the back. If you want to take a copy of that, it gives you a lot more detail on what's looked at in the Ready, Set, Go campaign. And finally, when we have these emergencies, how do we notify the public? How does everybody kind of get an idea of what's happening? And Mojave County utilizes the iPause notification system, which is managed by FEMA. Mojave County's used this several times over the last 10 years. We've done it through winter storms as well as fires. The Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center initiates the messaging, and it will go through everybody's cell phone with a text message with that message that the public safety officials want to share with the public. It works exactly like you see during the summer months when we see a severe thunderstorm warning from the National Weather Service puts out. So with that, do you guys have any questions you'd like to ask?
Thank you for the briefing. I'd open it up to the board.
All right.
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, are bark beetles still a problem up in the Wallapies?
Yes, sir. If I can turn on.
I noticed some brown trees in your picture there.
Yeah. Can you see? I don't know if I. Unfortunately, the bark beetle has infested our upper mountain. We've been active for about 15 years. The county has gotten several federal grants going back to about 2009, where we've approximately removed about 10,000 trees from the Wildfire Park. We're thinning that park out. We're losing a lot of older trees. There's nothing like losing a tree that's 150, 200 years old to an insect. And what's happening there is that lack of precip is causing these trees not to sap out. And the sapping is what keeps the insects off. So with no water, there's no sapping. Those trees then get infected, and then it just migrates through the whole forest. The fact that we are mitigating those trouble trees, hot spots, in a timely manner, we've really done a pretty good job at minimizing how quickly that forest is hit with that problem. This $3.7 million is going to be another shot to help reduce that threat this summer. But it's an ongoing situation. As this drought continues, we'll continue to see that impact across the entire Southwest.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Martin, thank you.
Mike, the trees that are removed, what are done with them?
Depending so when we do a forest health thinning, we're looking at a lot, not just trees that are impacted by bark beetle, but they may be weakened or overgrown in a certain location. We're going to reduce that population. Trees are just like everybody else. They need water. So they're pulling out of that same small bucket of water up there. And for every new tree, it's just another life that's pulling that little bit of water that's left. So as we harvest those trees, as long as they're not infected with bark beetle, we typically cut those logs up, and we give the public an opportunity to come up and pick that debris up as firewood. Trees that are infected with bark beetle, they have to be burnt. They can be covered with visqueen, and it keeps the insects from migrating into other trees nearby. They could be removed from the property, but we have to be very cautious and careful about where that material ends up, because if it's put near another pine tree of the same species, it's likely that insect, if it survived, will migrate into those other areas.
Thank you again for the briefing. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Move to item number 67. Discussion possible action, review additional information provided related to solar shading projects for select county facilities. Attorney Acton, or Director Acton, excuse me. You don't want to be an attorney, do you, Terry?
Good morning, Chairman and board members. At the board's this is the April 6th meeting. I think it was at the March 6th meeting, we presented a solar package to the board. There was discussion. Ultimately, we were directed to research if power purchase agreements were an option, and to also look into how Lake Havasu City entered into their agreement. We've completed that research. We're sharing this information with the board. And if the board has an interest in doing any kind of solar projects at county facilities, we want direction from you before we invest any more time into it. And so essentially, we did reach out to the vendors that had already walked our sites and asked them if they would be interested. The state cooperative contract that we were looking at in the original proposal that we submitted to you said that it was allowed as part of the scope of work at the discretion of the vendors. 2 of the vendors did say that they would be willing to do some kind of what they call solar service agreements with the county. One had mentioned that if you were to do it, it'd have to be through a third party, which would not be within that cooperative contract. We reached out to the city of Lake Havasu City to try to determine how they entered into their agreements. It was done in 2012, where there were lots of incentives for power buybacks, things like that. The city of Havasu had determined that the records related to the actual procurement process were outside of their retention schedule. They don't have those records anymore. And so Barbara Spoonhour, the procurement officer that's been working on this, did some additional research and was able to find some city meeting minutes that talked about how they entered into the agreement. But essentially in 2010, they entered into an agreement to do an investment grade energy audit. And then in 2011, the city entered into the agreement with the same company who did the energy audit to construct the solar, and that it is basically done through a solar power purchase agreement. Being that that was about 14 years ago, or a little more than 14 years ago, that's really the only information that we have on this. So this is just me following up with the board, and if you have an interest in moving forward with any of those solar agreements, accepting that direction from you.
Supervisor Borelli, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Director. So, did these bid requests go out to local?
We did not do a bid request. We did research into the existing cooperative agreements with the state. So it was apparent to me that the board didn't necessarily want us to invest time in agreements at this point, but to bring back research onto what options exist. And so my recommendation would be that if we move forward, that we use an existing co-op. The state of Arizona pushed that co-op out statewide to anyone that might be able to offer. I believe they actually ended up with 4 companies that submitted. Most recently, I think they awarded these in January. But the state went through a formal competitive process to select firms that could do that. They offered it statewide. 4 submitted, or multiple submitted, 4 were recommended for an award. 3 only responded to us when we initially reached out. And so again, not to invest more staff time in it, we did site walks around the county at each of these facilities. We reached out to the 3 that had already walked the sites and were very familiar with our scope of, not our scope of work, but with those facilities, to see if there would be an interest in them basically taking on the risk of the project and offering the power purchase agreements.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So my question is, I question that the statewide thing, because it always focuses on Maricopa County, Pima County, Tucson, Phoenix guys, and none of the solar companies in Lake Havasu even knew about this.
I would argue that the solar companies probably didn't know about Mojave County looking at those contracts, but the state actually has a very robust, the state procurement office runs a robust cooperative procurement organization. It's kind of the same thing people will say all day long. They didn't know Mojave County was out to bid for a certain thing. We can't lead a horse to water, or I guess we can lead a horse to water, we can't make them drink. They may not have been aware of the state opportunity, but the state does meet all of the notice requirements and reach out statewide for these cooperative agreements to try and get agreements in place that benefit all state agencies.
Being in the legislature for 12 years, I understand how the Department of Administration, they kind of like focus on the most expedient way to get something off their desk. And they don't think outside the box and, shop local, buy local, or buy local.
The comments? From District 1, I appreciate the additional look. I mean, if there's an opportunity to get solar shading, but no cost out of the county's pocket, as some of the other organizations out there have, I'd be open to that concept. I'm not sure how you get there, but I'm sure that our folks down in Bullhead and Havasu would love to have the solar shading if it's possible. So, Chairman, a couple things that I do want to share. The offer that we brought to the county or to the board initially resulted on the investment tax credit, part of the big, beautiful tax bill. There is a window of opportunity there. I didn't put the quotations. Thank you, Supervisor Gold.
And so there's a small window of opportunity there. I don't have all of the details, but essentially construction needs to start by July 4th. And then they have an additional amount of time if they can get construction started by July 4th. If we don't start construction until after July 4th, the entire project must be done by December of 2027. And so we did reach out to the two vendors that did say they'd be interested in doing solar service agreements. And it's kind of as soon as possible would be great if we could enter into agreements by May. They can commit to honoring those agreements, and they then would qualify for the investment tax credit. The initial offer that we had presented to the county was that the county would do the initial investment and then we would benefit from that tax credit. So whatever the board directs us to do, we are on a tight timeline. And so staff's recommendation, if the board wanted to move forward with solar, would to be work with those two companies under the existing cooperative agreement. I don't know how familiar you all are with the process from a governmental standpoint to enter into these agreements. But we would, if we were going to do it on our own, we would probably need to get a consultant to do an initial review of where they think there is performance opportunities. And then we would need to be able to write a scope and manage a contract that has performance metrics in it in order to ensure that they are actually meeting what they promise. That's generally how the energy performance contracting works. So utilizing the state contracts will get us there quicker if we want to take advantage of the ITC. And then the other thing that I'm not sure about is the Bullhead sites, because they are the Mojave Electrical Cooperative. They don't offer the net metering. And so I don't know that Mojave County sites in Bullhead City would actually be something that any of these vendors would be interested in. We can ask, but they may not because there's not the benefit of net metering.
Thank you. Supervisor Burley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Director, just to be clear, we can do basically the Mojave, the Lake Havasu model?
I can't say that because I don't know exactly what the Lake Havasu model was. The state cooperative contracts that we've looked into allow solar service agreements where the vendors take on the cost and the maintenance. I think we had anywhere from 25-year or 20-year agreements to 28-year agreements. Sorry, I'm scrolling my back up. I don't want to speak out of turn. Using the state cooperatives, they offered some that had some financing options. I don't know that the county would be interested in taking financing options. We don't tend to want to finance purchases when we do have cash on hand, but we would be looking at anywhere from 20 to 28-year solar service agreements. In those scenarios, generally the contractor takes on the risk of building, maintaining, and then at the end of the 20 or 28-year period, it's essentially like we're leasing it, and we can purchase it and then start to maintain it ourselves at the end of 20 or 28 years, or the contractor would come take it down at the end of 20 or 28 years.
Sure.
It was Burley.
I was on council when this whole project started, and they found a vendor that would build basically the carport with the solar panels on that. And of course, they would provide power to the city, and they would cap it at a 2% rate increase. Was a cap if they did a rate increase. So the vendor got all the tax credits, all that good stuff. I mean, how do we get a tax credit? How do we use that? I mean, we don't pay tax, but as a government, but they got the tax credits. They sold us the power, and it was cheaper than the normal.
And without actually having the proposals and moving forward with that, I don't know what it would look like. 15 years ago, there were incentives for power purchasing, and if you were providing power essentially to the grid, they would actually pay you some of that. That was where a lot of the incentive was for these companies. I think right now the primary incentive is that tax credit, and so I don't know if they would cap the amount to us or if we would be paying a flat rate. If the board wants us to look into that, then we'll seek proposals from those vendors in order to do that. But I just don't know what it looks like. I did this for the city of Tucson about 10 years ago. Again, it was much more lucrative. They had an energy office that managed these. They had an energy office that did the studies. Mojave County doesn't have any of that. And so I think if we were to move forward, using the existing state cooperatives would probably make the most sense because all of that work has been done already. We can get proposals and bring them back to the board at a future meeting if there's an interest. If there's not an interest, we just want you to let us know that you don't want us to pursue it any further.
Thank you, Tara. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the Corporation Commission repealed the renewable energy mandate that they'd placed on the utility companies recently. So that's kind of reduced the pressure to come up with so-called renewable energy. That's probably, and we have our own solar system now at the courthouse down in Bullhead City. If you want to see what the thing generates and how much, if it's even paid for itself yet, which I don't think it has, we have our own test model there that I'm sure that Director Latosky can run numbers on the thing and see what the thing's actually saved us in electricity. I'm not sure. I for one, don't want to go into debt. One of the three models was just, going to get us a loan. I'm not interested in borrowing money. I don't think the return's there to justify it. The only thing, you got kind of a short timeline with that so-called big, beautiful bill kickback, is the only thing that kind of brought this to a head. But I really don't think that there's really much benefit there. And frankly, I don't know that the taxpayers want us spending money to provide covered parking for ourselves. They don't have covered parking. I think it's kind of, the optics are bad on it. But that's my opinion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor. I would agree that I would support it if there was just no cost out of the county's pocket. It'd be great to get the solar shading, but if there's a cost for it, I don't think that the taxpayers really would identify that as a priority. Open it up for a motion.
Chairman, I don't know if you saw Manager.
Oh, I'm sorry, Manager Strahl.
Just a quick comment on that. I guess from a staff standpoint, we were looking at, because of that other option where the county would not invest, would you want us to pursue that option where the companies take that risk and make that capital investment? So that's kind of the threshold question we're at.
Yeah. What's on the agenda today is do we want staff to invest time to bring back proposals
and it has to be
to that effect or not?
Right, it has to be within that short time frame. So that's why it's kind of a urgency issue at this
Got
point.
it. Well, that's a question to the board.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Burley.
I would prefer that model that Lake Havasu did, where the company took all the capital risk. I mean, everything. They did it. They built it. They took the initial capital outlay. They just sold power to the city or for us to the county. But we need to make sure there's a 2% cap on a rate increase. But that's the model that I'd rather go, or OPM, other people's money. Let them make the capital investment.
Supervisor Martin, did you have a comment?
I think it's right. As long as it's not out of pocket for us and you can do something, that's fine. But if we got to go out, I don't think that's a good investment.
Director Acton, I think that's the direction that you're looking for from the board today. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the request from us would be, if you'd like us to pursue options that are no cost to the county, we can reach out to these two cooperative providers and say, what options do you have for us that are no direct cost to the county, and what would be the terms of those agreements? We can bring that back to the board if the board's interested at looking at particular sites. If there are certain sites the board wants us to look at, or if you want us to include all that we had already looked at, we can do that as well.
Supervisor Borelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to that point, I know you can think outside the box, and it's a great challenge. And here's another first for Mojave County. And we can actually kind of like thumb our nose to the other counties. This is how we're doing business.
Are you wanting us then not to use the state co-op? I'm not sure we can go through a process that's Mojave County ran prior to that May-ish deadline, but we can definitely work with the state selected firms under the state co-op and see what proposals they're willing to give us.
It's the business model that they make the entire investment, they put it up, all that stuff.
That's the business model we will ask for if the board directs us to do so.
Yeah.
Supervisor Gould, thank you.
You're going to move forward with this. I really think you ought to open it up to local contractors. I think it sets a bad precedent.
I don't disagree. I don't think we have the time. That's where my concern is. I don't think we have the time that we could qualify for this incentive. It's a long process.
To that,
I still think we should open it up, and we should break it down to small enough projects that local contractors could be competitive on.
Yeah, even MEC might even want to jump on something like this.
It's good feedback, Director Acton. To that point, more of a nuanced question. Even if the local solar contractors are not the prime contractor, would you be able to ask those that are on state contract if they have any opportunities for our local people to participate as subcontractors?
We could ask if they have a model where they work with local companies. I don't know. It's really going to be up to them what they put in their offer.
I think it's worth asking to the supervisor's points. I'd entertain a motion or additional discussion. Supervisor Borelli.
And this might be something for Will. Are we prevented from making phone calls to local contractors like, hey, call the county?
The problem with local contractors, I'm sorry, I'm going to answer it from a procurement standpoint. We would need to go through a formal competitive process, so I would discourage any elected officials from calling contractors. If we're not going out to bid for it ourselves, then what we would be doing is reaching out to those that have already been selected as primes and encouraging them, if you've got any that are interested that might be able to provide it as like a subcontractor, as Chairman Linkenfelter said, they can reach out to us and we can put them in contact. If I think it's Abodo and Solon both said they'd be willing to make those agreements, we can put them in contact with them if they have an interest in doing it. But
Entertain a motion, if there is one. I think what you're asking for is just to bring back proposals with the model that you're looking at. I think, Manager Straw, you have a comment?
Well, I think the motion could be to direct staff to pursue a power purchase agreement with the vendors that they've previously had contact with. So within that model that has already been presented. And then obviously we would encourage them to reach out to the local vendors to try to get them connected with one another also.
yeah, I think we understand the parameters of the project from the board standpoint. It would just be directing us to move forward with available cooperative vendors to see what we can bring forward.
And I concur with the county manager that with his statement that we approve that type of language and we move forward.
Second.
With that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, board. We'll move to item number 68, discussion possible action, authorize Mojave County to execute a mutual release from the short form agreement between Mojave County and Capstone Aero Solutions Incorporated. Attorney Davis, you have anything to say about this, or?
Mr. Chair, not really. I think it just speaks for itself.
Self-explanatory, yeah. Mr. Gary, you had signed up. Do you want to provide comments to the board, or please come up to the podium? State your name and address for the record and for our clerk, please. Thank you.
Ben Gary, CEO of Capstone Aero Solutions, 1550 Wewata in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you. You'd speak into the microphone too, being a tall guy.
Taller, kind of lean a little bit. I did submit my comments to Councilor Davis if he would like to read them into the record, or I can read the letter that I sent him.
It's your preference, sir.
By all means. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Benjamin Gary, CEO of Capstone Aero. We were engaged by Mojave County in an advisory capacity related to the governance and sponsorship considerations at the Laughlin Bullhead International Airport. During that engagement, which the county has fully funded through April, we raised consistent questions regarding sponsor authority, governance structure, and alignment with the FAA obligations. These issues have been discussed with the County Council, Airport Authority Council, and the FAA's Phoenix ADO leadership during a call on 2/12/26, where the need for clarity was acknowledged by the FAA. These are not abstract concerns. There have been public comments in prior meetings regarding the potential disposition of airport land. In addition, there are indications that similar actions may still be under consideration by local stakeholders. To the extent that it is the case, those decisions would be occurring within a structure where the sponsor authority has not yet been clearly resolved. Regardless of any intended transfer of control or operational structure, Mojave County remains the federally recognized sponsor and retains full responsibility for compliance with FAA grant assurances, unless and until the status of that status is formally changed with FAA approval. As I understand it, Agenda Item 68 proposes a broad mutual release that would fully and permanently discharge any claims arising from this engagement. My question is a narrow one. If have the underlying governance and federal compliance issues that prompted this engagement been formally resolved and documented in a manner consistent with FAA requirements? If they have, that resolution should be stated clearly on the record prior to ending our engagement. If they have not, executing a release of this scope under acknowledged ambiguity may impair the county's ability to address those issues going forward. Under our agreement, Capstone has committed to providing verbal advisory through April. As such, we remain available through April for continued briefings and can provide formal documentation or written deliverables upon written request. Then happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Sir, does your firm still have an active engagement with the Mojave County Airport Authority down in Bullhead?
We have paused that engagement. We have an outstanding invoice that was submitted in the first week of January that has not been addressed and now seems to be in dispute.
I understand they have new executive committee members. Have you addressed that issue with the new president of the board?
No, I've addressed the issue with James Scheller, the airport director.
Thank you. Put it up for discussion or possible action.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I have a couple of comments on that. Clearly, I think we're going to need your services in the future. I think we're in a very learning period right now. So two things are really leaning on us. First of all, we still don't know what the financial situation of that airport authority is. There's a forensic audit that is currently in place. The latest we've heard, it's being pushed off a completion date yet again. Okay, so the auditor is unable. So we're not even sure what the financial status of the airport authority is. Second, the city and Bullhead City and the county have both put new board members on, giving the two governmental agencies effective control of that board. And I think we're going through a learning process. Just to show you how quick this, or how comprehensive this learning process is, I just informed our new county manager earlier this morning that congratulations, it's his airport. It always has been his airport, okay, apparently, but it's his airport, and even he has to go through a learning curve. And I think all of us are in a learning curve on what in the world is going on over at that airport. It'll start coming to a head on April 8th or 9th, I forget what the day is, of their annual meeting, which is basically in 2 days. Okay, and I know a number of us I won't be at that meeting, but I know a number of county and city officials will be. And it started the process to learn what is going on so that we can understand the scope of services that are needed to help us get that place turned around, okay, and become the economic engine, the airport it deserves to be. So that would be my comment on it.
Supervisor? Open it up for additional discussion or motion.
Well, I would move to approve item 68 as read.
Heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I could just say, up to the pleasure of the board, if the board wishes to re-engage Capstone Arrow in the future, we have full liberty to do so.
I agree. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you. We have one executive session item, item number 69. I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the waiver of conflict of interest with the firm of Jones, Skelton, and Hokeley in the case of Chin versus Fisher, Sond, and Grover.
Thank you, Supervisor Letman. Do I have a second?
Gravel, excuse me.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. We have call the public. Armin Stange. Jennifer Esposito, you're on deck. Thank you.
I'm in Fort Mojave, Arizona, aka the German. I had a few videos that went away. On Cavalry Road, we have more commercial traffic than it's really wanted. We have, what is that, mattress firm, aquatic, just about every construction company in the county is going up and down Cavalry Road. And a couple of days ago, I tried to back into my driveway, and the semi went about a couple of inches in front of my car just because he was too damn lazy to wait. And we have other people driving around there with front loaders and everything, doing their work at night again, you know. We all know who I'm talking about. And then the thing I had here with the fire, they forgot to put the illegal fireworks on there and the flicking out cigarettes out of their cars because people are too lazy to have ashtrays. You know, I know all the new cars don't come with ashtrays, but you drive up and down 95 to Mojave Valley, around Route 1 to Topeka, you see people flicking their cigarettes out right and left. It's ridiculous. I mean, I think the sheriff needs to put a sign up again on his billboard, flick it and ticket. Very simple. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Jennifer Esposito, address already stated. First, I'd like to welcome the new county manager. You don't know me yet, but you'll get to know me. I publish the Mojave Free Press newspaper, and I have a monthly column on the activities of the board. So feel free to follow me on Substack. I'm sure you will be a drastic improvement over the pontificating buffoon that used to warm that seat. Looking forward to a good working relationship together, and hopefully you won't do anything I need to write about. I would like to inform the board that all parties have lawfully been served, whether they liked it or not, in the matter of Jennifer Esposito versus David Rose et al. Mr. Davis, I gave you a courtesy PDF this morning. I encourage everyone to read the case. This case was completely avoidable. Penny Holden and I spoke before this board a few weeks ago, stated on the record that Mr. Rose is not eligible. He did not restore his rights pursuant to ARS 13-907-908. And I don't want to hear anything about that I'm costing the taxpayers money or that this is frivolous or baseless or lawfare. It isn't. So please read it. Anybody who would like a copy can email me at esposito2024@proton.me. I'd be happy to send them a copy. But the reality is that there are people holding public office within the Republican Party who were well aware of this. Supervisor Letman endorsed Mr. Rose, and so did County Recorder Lydia Durst. And, you know, Supervisor Borelli's administrative assistant, Jody Segazer, is the chairman of the Mojave County Republican Central Committee. Everybody has been aware of this. And I don't know why, but nobody took Mr. Rose aside and said, you didn't follow the law. You might want to actually step down, apply to Superior Court, follow the laws of the state of Arizona. He's not eligible to hold his office in the Havasu School District. He's not eligible to be a precinct committeeman, and he is most certainly not eligible to be our state representative, at least not until he follows the law. So there's a pre-trial conference on Wednesday, and the hearing is at 1:30 on Friday, and everyone can attend virtually. So anybody who would like to see me kick his butt, feel free to do so. I've done this before. I'm sure that Supervisor Borelli remembers 10 years ago when I ran for this seat. His boy Paul Mosley challenged me on my petition, and I won. And I intend to win again. So log in. See you there. Thank you.
We are adjourned.